Hey, what's up everyone? Alex back with another video on the World Othello Championships 2024. So this is round 6. So I basically started the first 4 rounds with 4 straight wins and then followed by a loss to Song Yan, which in my mind was actually fine because I guess typically if you go into any WOC, you would probably expect to at least meet 3 out of 4 people that you think are clear-cut semi-finalists, caliber people if you are kind of winning and on track to kind of try to enter the semi-finals as well. So I was just a little surprised that after losing to Song Yan, who is one of them in my mind, I'm meeting another one who is Kurita Seiya. So I don't really have a full understanding of Kurita Seiya's game. But at the same time, I know that his book is strong. Last year, the previous year in 2023, he had 13 wins, but he lost to semifinals to his compatriot Nagano. So I guess going into this game, I didn't really know much. Besides that, I think he has a very strong book. So I was playing white, and I thought that again, similar to Takuji, I would try a parallel opening here just to try to surprise him. And interestingly enough, I think he told me after the tournament during the victory dinner that he actually briefly saw the game between me and Takuji, and he knew that I played parallel sometimes. But he told me that he didn't really expect me to play parallel. So when he played black and I played white parallel, then he was a bit surprised. But at the same time, he looked like he was fairly kind of mentally prepared to face it because he responded pretty quickly, even though he was a bit probably surprised at that point. So I think he was extremely careful. In terms of book, I chose pretty much similar line, which is the same line that I did against Takuji. But over here, instead of playing G5 like how Takuji did, Black went ahead to play F1, which is kind of like the standard book response to this opening. So I think up till this point, it's all kind of a standard book response. And I think over here I do have a few options to play, maybe say e7 or even c2. But over here I just decided to go with the quick and easy compact d6, hoping for him to kind of disperse in terms of how he moves. And I think I used this against Rujipa Sopian and Anchuli in the 2016 Thai Open. So I did go to the Thai Open right before Anchuli actually won his World Championship title in Japan at the end of the 2016 year. So interestingly, this whole sequence, I think it was played out almost identical to what I played against Anchuli. So I would definitely put Kurita probably the same level or even better than Anchuli. So it wouldn't be surprised to kind of it wouldn't be too surprising to kind of see that sequence play out. So over here, after Black cut out, I decided to go intersect, which is quite a standard response to kind of remain within the center, because cutting out basically gives him e5 and e6, and there are key discs to kind of position himself to b5 and b3. So over here I did want to at least cut away one of them, keeping the loud move for him. At the same time, probably giving away g4 on the back of that using like a head and tail theory. But at the same time, having g4 if Black plays g4, allowing me to kind of go like h3, h5, g3, g5 kind of exchange. I then kind of have a chance to capture the g4 disc to allow me to kind of regroup to d1. So yeah, for parallel opening, it tends to be a little bit like that. You just want to kind of exercise your strength to build a strong edge. So that was the approach. But he surprised me by not playing h5 for the standard exchange, and instead he played g5, which I think to some extent was fairly effective. So it did make me ponder whether I should go to g3 or go to d1 immediately. So I think I chose, if I'm not wrong, I chose g3. Let me see. Oh, okay, I chose d1. Now, kind of looking back at it, I'm not too sure whether I should have chosen g3, even though g3 gives an obvious h4. Yeah, but I guess, probably my consideration was g3, h4, and I lose the g4 this, and I don't have access to d1. There's no continuation play there. I'm just trying to visualize if I potentially missed something, but I guess that was my main concern. If I did g3, h4, I wouldn't have access to d1, so I'll just grab the d1 access while I still have it. And at the same time, if Black were to attack with h4, I'll still be able to slot in g3. So yeah, I think that kind of minor mid-game differences means a lot. Probably during the slow game, you do have to kind of just look at least 3-4 moves ahead, try to convince yourself why you're choosing one sequence or one move over the other. Okay, so this one is another move that kind of surprised me. Black played this, but I think most of the time when I observe top players, top Japanese players at least, when they try to control the mid game, they are very astute with kind of selecting moves around the kind of inner parameter, and it involves like diagonal cuts with key disc. So I kind of think that probably that cut was to kind of maintain like a general central shape, but at the same time, these moves would be too loud. So this is probably a more acceptable move compared to the rest, I guess. I was just wondering why didn't he play b5 perhaps, because maybe b5 is quite to establish access to f7, but maybe he was afraid of this outcome. But I would think that maybe it would play along this sequence, and I guess he would still be quite fairly certain that he'll be able to capture f7. So I'm not too sure what was going through his mind here, but I don't think this is a bad move as well, because it's quite a clean diagonal cut. But over here, I think the game was not that bad until probably further down when I made some mistakes. I think d2 here, I'm not too sure whether it was a mistake by me. I guess now looking back, I was wondering why didn't I play b4. Let's see, if I played b4 and he went in, captures the c4 disc. I think that was my concern, because he would have a very solid way to kind of capture c4 and I wouldn't be able to stop it, and the cost of kind of blocking the move would be too high. Playing it around it probably means f8. If he went in this way, yeah, it would still be more or less a strong kind of position for him. Maybe seeing that I kind of have a temporary diagonal control over c3, c4 through e6, I thought maybe I'll just form out the shape. And also because if I put it here, if he did this, then I would have probably quite an easy way to kind of proceed towards c2 eventually. And also I think establishing d2 early was for me to kind of like target h6 to kind of form a pair. So let's see, yeah, after that black played this cutout to continue to kind of control this line. So you can see across top players, there is always this kind of evident observation about them wanting to control the internal or centralizing axis. So over here you can see this mini diagonal being controlled nicely by Kurita, and also this vertical column controlled by Kurita as well. So yeah, even though there is a very obvious move for me to kind of jump into g3 to create e5 to kind of target c3, but at the same time, if I did that, I would be too slow actually. I would be slow because black still has e3 and can just kind of defend it. And the beauty of Kurita's game over here is that he's kind of waiting for me to target it, and if he targets it, he would just block it. And at the same time, when he block it, you can realize that the diagonal cut for white has kind of moved from this line to this line, and at the same time he's kind of planned it that he has control. Like over here you can see f5 to d3 line is still controlled by him. So it's really a very beautiful game. I think when Othello is being played at the highest level, you tend to see situations where the top players set up scenarios for you to kind of chase after, but at the same time you're always kind of one step behind in a way. So if you look at this, you would realize, hey, Kurita has probably nicely planned this out in a way when he formed this shape. So that's why in the end, I think there could be another option like maybe b3, but b3 maybe c3 wouldn't really achieve much, considering he's still controlling this line and this line as well, and at the same time it just kind of gives him one more move to a3 to be played. So I don't think that really helped. So one of the things that I wanted to do was probably remove e3 and also form a pair for myself. I think it was a bit overly aggressive, but yeah, I think that was my approach. So I think this next move by Kurita to e8 kind of surprised me, because in my mind I was just kind of expecting f7. So yeah, if you make wrong assumptions about your opponent's move, you tend to kind of be a little surprised, because I would imagine maybe something like this, but this probably favors white, which is why he didn't play it. So this, yeah, kind of puts me in a tough spot, because at the same time, he retains this e5 disc to kind of go for a regrouping move to e7, and also, if I were to play c8 in response, he will still be able to retain the f7 move to kind of remain in the center. So afterwards, I decided that maybe this doesn't really work. I mean, now kind of looking at it, I wonder if it would have worked if I just played this sequence. It might have been better actually to kind of secure. So the part about parallel opening is that it tends to kind of move into a shape similar to Komoth in a way, because you have like kind of two internal pointing edges to one corner. So I think that's pretty much evident with Komoth as well. So it's always going to be a bit of a risk, a double-edged sword to play the parallel opening. So I think I played f7 here because I just wanted to keep g6 very poisoned for him. And then he played a quick regrouping to c7. So one of the things to note about the top players' games is that there's always a setup move, and then it's kind of like a waiting move, and then a regrouping move. So I would say, c7 was more like him regrouping. So if you look at Kurita's game, I think he does a very, very good job doing that in terms of like, hey, let's play out. There's a prompt move, and then there's a maybe intersecting move that creates success, and then there's also a regrouping move whereby they're just kind of waiting for your mistake. So over here, after he's regrouped nicely, of course c3 is a very obvious move for me. I have to play it to some extent because I didn't have much options. And also c3 being in the center 16, it tends to be slightly favored over maybe a parameter move. So if you compare c3 and c8, right, c8 is also a quiet move that I can play. I could consider like maybe c8, d8, and then f8. But the difference between c3 and c8 is that c3 is a lot more removable, in a sense that there's more chances that black will play a sequence that removes c3. So after he removes c3, then I'll be able to play c8. But if I kind of establish c8, d8, f8, then c8 becomes almost like a permanent fixture on the board, and there isn't a chance for me to. I would essentially be obstructing myself to c3 in the future. So c3 first for sure, and then followed by c2 for black. So this is where I made my mistake. I was weighing between b5 and c8. So interestingly, when I'm kind of putting this into perspective now, it seems like I kind of obstructed myself by playing b5 first, because for me b5 looked like a nice diagonal to have to kind of control this mini diagonal between c4 and f7. But at the same time, I didn't kind of go back and consider that he doesn't have access to c1, so there's no immediate pressing need to kind of defend the edge. And at the same time, since he's formed like this continuous long column of discs, the end of it, c8, from this column's perspective, I no longer kind of obstruct myself that much. And playing c8, d8, f8, it doesn't really obstruct my future progress towards b5, or even kind of using the edge to look at moves like a6 or a4 in the future. So yeah, kind of on hindsight, I think I missed this really badly, because I think c8 puts me in a position whereby I'm still, I can still fight a little. So if I did this, then I guess black would probably go either g3 or g6, whichever. Probably maybe it's g6, I guess. It probably costs a lot more for me to kind of intersect into this mini diagonal than the other. Because over here, I do have probably easier access like a6 to create this d6 disc to kind of regroup here. Not sure offhand, but either one would probably be the move that he plays. Now looking at it, it doesn't make sense that I did not play c8. So what happened was I played this, and then he took this pretty quickly. I think he could sense that I probably made a mistake. But over here, on the response, I'm not too sure whether a6 was the better move, or probably just a quick c8 again. I had one more option, or maybe even just kind of f8 and just kind of waiting for him to form the unbalanced edge. But f8, g8 gives him quick access to b3 that I cannot really defend, given that this is a loud move for me. So now looking at it again, it seems like probably I should have just stuck to my side and just play c8 and wait. Yeah, probably c8 actually starts to look fine. Guess. Yeah, then I guess the problem with b5 is that it gives a4 away, and in the future he can even do something like this to regroup, and then it still gives him an opportunity to kind of jump in and out of my discs. So now looking back at it, it doesn't seem that great. So definitely b5 was an issue. Should have just kept it clean this way. It's a lot easier to kind of creep along the edges. In the future, I probably have like kind of 1.5 moves in a way, or one move. So okay, let's just play out a sequence then here. So I played a6 thinking that I have him poisoned, but at the same time he played a quick g3 to poison the b3 move, so it was difficult for me to kind of approach it. Oops, accidentally move it all the way to the end. So over here, after 35th move, I think this was probably a mistake. I shouldn't have engaged f8, because if he played f8, I could just simply play g6, and if he played g6, I could have multiple options. So it totally doesn't make sense for me to engage. In fact, I should probably have covered, given that this move to g3 creates these two disks to access c1. I should probably be considering about the active area in c1 instead of activating another area. So I should probably be looking to defend c1. Maybe this way, or if I don't defend this way, I could at least kind of just cut in this way and move towards this active zone instead of re-engaging another zone over here. So that totally didn't make sense. And he could have just done this, and he would still be able to isolate that area. So if I played this, he would just cut in this way, and I would still be in a very tough situation. So I think at this point, probably already losing, and Kurita knows it. He was fully controlling the situation. So the problem with taking high risk opening is that when you kind of commit yourself to taking quite a bit of high risk, it then becomes very difficult to kind of defend if you suddenly realize you're losing and you're still trying to kind of win, but at the same time, you're going to lose a lot of this. So this probably would have been quite a negative move, given that I'm still trying to kind of struggle for a win. But actually maybe just a straightforward g2, or maybe a move as loud as b3 or c1 would actually be more defensive. This kind of shape and a pair like this and a diagonal control for him opens up a lot of moves for him actually in the future, for a lot of swindles and setup plays. So that's essentially kind of what happened. I think at this point the game was already lost, but I think what is useful is that you can look at how Kurita kind of shuts down the game. I think he fully punish me for this opening right from the get-go once he formed up this shape. So in Commonwealth, it's pretty similar. Once you have kind of a double sealed pointing edge towards a corner, it's always going to be a double-edged sword. You're either going to be able to win big by forcing your opponent to play g2 in the future and you taking the corner, or you're just going to lose the corner and you're going to lose everything in the inside. So that's exactly what happened to me against Kurita. So obviously Kurita eventually gone on to won this world title. So I looking back, I don't really feel too bad about it. And he told me that he had a tough time dealing with my parallel opening. At least up to the mid game, he felt under pressure and he knew he was losing at some point. So yeah, I guess it's important to kind of gather the positive takeaways even in losses and try to learn from your mistakes. So maybe I got lucky with the first parallel opening against Takuji Kashiwabara, and I thought I'll try it again because I think on one path I could play a very traditional opening, a very proper book opening against Kurita, which I would probably maybe narrowly lose between maybe 6 to 10 discs, or maybe if I made a huge mistake I'll still end up with a similar result. I thought that instead of doing that, I'll probably give him a little run for his money, which I guess after talking to him at the victory dinner, he did say that he did struggle with this game for sure. But yeah, at the end, he did. After I made the mid game mistake, he pretty much played a perfect lead from start to finish from the mid game. So kudos to Kurita, and yeah, hopefully wishing him more success, because obviously Nagano, who won the World Championship 2023, he was not able to qualify to this year's World Championship, which is a bit sad because it's kind of like the Japanese team. They have won like maybe the past 19 or 20 team championships because they're always sending such a strong team. They have more than maybe 20 players who can play at the World semi-final level and above. So qualification is always a big problem when you have 20 players who are playing at a world champion level, and there are only 3 open seats and 1 junior seat. So yeah, I wish Kurita every success, and hopefully he is able to qualify, because I think as far as I know, Japan has filled 1 seat with Kento Urano through the All Japan Championship, and even for Kento Urano, he's just he was the world champion 2022, and he's just qualifying back for 2025. And the last two seats would be in Meijin in next year March, which usually occurs in March, and then after that followed by Oza, I think usually more towards the mid-year. So yeah, all the best to Kurita, and yeah, hopefully I meet him at the World Championship one day again. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you at the next one. Goodbye.